Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about spiritual integration and what that might be. And the first thing that I hope we can agree on is that the word spiritual is problematic in the sense that every person on a spiritual journey or listening to this video even would uh, admit that they have their own definition of what the word means. And so I want to kind of capitalize on that. Um, and I'll start with saying that I think there is one unifying definition, which is that um, spirituality, if we're going to say we are spiritual, there's an idea that there is something larger than us, whether that's a God or a universal intelligence or just a view or emptiness, a big void, but that we are sort of nested in a larger perspective that we're relating to, or trying to relate to in some way. So we could say if you have the belief that you are the center of the universe as a sort of individual self, and you don't have a connection to anything larger, um, you wouldn't really call yourself spiritual, which is fine. I'm not making a moral judgment there. I'm just trying to get a unifying definition, or to show one area where we might be unified is that there is something larger than us that we are interested in developing a relationship with. Now, on the non-unifying side, like we said, there's uh, each person has a very particular definition of what spirituality is. And that's sort of the other half of the definition, that we do have an individual self. We do experience ourselves as separate. And we do go through a kind of a journey of growth and development that is very individualized and unique to us. And it feels spiritual in some way. Okay, so this individual journey includes things like healing or developing into greater wholes, having greater capacities, wanting to show our individual gifts to the world in some way, wanting relationship that supports our continued evolution. So this is kind of the other side of or the other half of the spiritual, and this is the kind of integration side. Okay, so one just to make this really clear is like one place we could not be a spiritually integrated person is if we overemphasize the transcendent. We're kind of overemphasizing the transcendent principle to the degree that we're denying the individual self experience, denying what needs to be healed, denying development into larger wholes and much larger capacities to serve the world for greater change, then that's not really integrated. It may be spiritual, but only with the first half of the definition. And on the other hand, if all that's happening is you're working on the individual, unit of your own self, doing the important healing work, doing the growth, trying to be more effective in the world, without the view that you are embedded in something larger, then that's not very spiritual either, or spiritually integrated in some way. We're sort of lost in our individual relative sense of self without the view that we are nested in something larger. So one advantage of looking at spiritual integration is this way is that we could just be tracking ourselves in the sense of how we are defining spirituality, and we can just check: do we have a tradition or uh, a community, or even technologies, if you like, for working out a way to develop a relationship with something larger than us. To what degree are we emphasizing that? And then on the other hand, we can be looking at what we're doing to foster um, the flourishing of the individual self. And it helps us to see, what systems out there are in balance and what aren't. And to be able to, we can, in a way, in this day and age, it's our task to cobble together a series of practices from a series of different traditions um, in order to develop both wings of this, spiritual integration.